than I have. And she's got a lot of contacts in the field, so I feel like tonight's going to be a really interesting talk. Just a quick start before we begin about Startup Grind. I'm going to read this because I haven't memorized it. Startup Grind, powered by Google for Entrepreneurs, is a global startup community with 75,000 entrepreneurs across 200 cities. Each chapter aims to connect entrepreneurs with leading innovators within the startup ecosystem and inspire them. The Dubai chapter is approaching about 2 years with 2,000 followers, and all of you. Previous interviews have included Dubrazol, Expo 2020, the Impact Hub at Astrolabs, and tonight I'm pleased to have Fida with us. So just to start off with, I'm so excited to see an achieving Arab woman. Can you tell me how you began your journey in media and what led you to the role that you have today?
Really quickly, can you guys hear me without a mic?
Yes.
You don't have to pass back and forth? Okay, cool.
I'm going to use a mic because I'm really soft-spoken.
Yeah. Okay, so you were asking how I started in media.
Yes.
I'll keep this fairly brief. Wait, first, how many entrepreneurs are in the room? Okay. How many Hope students? How many people who are wannabe entrepreneurs? Okay, so we know where we're going with the conversation. I started in media after I finished school, actually. I did psych, and I found that I didn't want to work in psych after about a year of thinking, oh, do I, don't I? And I just started doing easy writing gigs, mostly around psych and advice column, funny enough. And that branched into other things, so on and so forth. And then I strayed into arts and culture, where I stayed for years and years in some fashion. And then I ended up getting recruited for Entrepreneur, and then I moved to Dubai.
Okay, so what's a typical day like for you today?
Okay, so we're a really small team at Entrepreneur. I don't know if any of you follow us on Twitter, you'll know because you see us tweeting back and forth at each other all day. Yeah. We generally get flooded every single day with tons and tons of pitches through social media and through email. We spend at least 20 to 30% of our day answering those kind of emails, either positively or rejecting the pitches. We also get a ton of, like event sort of queries, either to attend or to participate. So a great deal of our time is spent negotiating whether or not we'll be appearing at events or if we're distributing material at events, so on and so forth. And some of our time, not as much as we'd like, is spent writing. More of it is actually spent, I would say, marketing, almost.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the magazine. You're saying people pitch stories to you. What kind of stories do you take? What do you reject? What is the circulation of the magazine? Who's the audience?
Okay, well, typically the audience at the outset is supposed to be entrepreneurial, but that's not our audience. We find that everybody reads Entrepreneur, whether it's because of the diverse content or because we're constantly engaging on social media, so that draws in our separate audiences and has people clicking on our stuff. In terms of what we cover, due to the youth of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in MENA, we don't have as much grassroots entrepreneurial stories, say, as the US would. There's also a huge difference in volume. So the US puts out online about 50 articles a day. We put out max 3 to 4 online a day. And that's again, yeah, I know, but even, I mean, it could get better, but like with the size of our team and the amount of stuff we're tasked with in terms of, again, ecosystem participation and that sort of thing, we do way more of that than the US does, actually. So we're on the ground here a lot more. And again, that's probably because the startup ecosystem in MENA is really incestuous, right? So you'll see me at MIT's thing, and then you'll see, we'll both be at STEP, right? And then we're both here. I think we'll probably both be at AirNet, so on and so forth.
It's a really small community. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things I was going to bring up later is that it is hard to find role models. It's hard when you finally do break through the just ecosystem is really, really small.
Yes.
You end up seeing the same faces over and over. Every conference that I've been to, just the names are just
And even for the entrepreneurs in the room, even the startups and entrepreneurs that participate in the events are often the same people over and over. And that's actually not good if you're one of those entrepreneurs, in my opinion, that doesn't visit the ecosystem events, simply because this is where I've met a lot of the people that we end up covering. And this is the same for our entire team at Entrepreneur. And the more you're visible and interactive with the ecosystem and the more engaged you are, the more likely people are to take notice of you, right? So the next time they're looking for somebody to speak about Bitcoin, for example, they're like, he's got some background in Bitcoin, he has a startup that blah, blah, Bitcoin, let's get him to speak, right? And then that way you're potentially onboarding a new investor. So, I do need another question. Okay, back to pitches. Yeah. Okay, so we get pitches from, one that I loved. You know, I'll be honest with you, most pitches that I get are mediocre, I'm not gonna lie. They're generally not thought out well. A lot of them are dear editor, which means that you copy and pasted the same email and sent it to 50 editors just hoping. That's called spray and pray. We don't really appreciate that much.
So this is a PR person pitching to you, not an
No,
entrepreneur?
entrepreneurs do too.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of startup founders. The best pitches I think that we get are actually from the startup founders themselves that are like, I read Entrepreneur, I know you covered a startup like this, but my startup's like this, I've done X, Y, Z, check out our social media. That actually worked, because somebody that I had vetted completely sent me a rather long email, which I usually don't encourage, but like, he went into all these different social media platforms, and when I visited them, they were actually all active. He went into a point form sort of explanation about why his startup was worth coverage. I thought he worked really hard on the email, so just out of sheer respect, I decided to have a call with him and see, you know, what about his model that was impressive. And it did work. He did end up getting covered in one of our editions.
And what kind of coverage can a person expect?
I mean, it depends, right? So,
Just in terms of your readership or even on social media?
I mean, it depends. Our articles generally have a lot of reach, right? Because some of them are featured in print and then subsequently web, or vice versa. Some of them are web only, some of them are print only. That's rare. But our articles tend to have traction, not just because we share entrepreneur.com. That's actually another reason. I think it's because our social media presence actually gives everything legs. So even an article, for example, our cover story this month is about Oman. So can you hold it up? Thanks. Okay. So our cover story this month is about Oman. You don't read much about Oman's ecosystem, but like AB went out there. AB, can you stand up? That's managed together, one of her. Anyways, AB went out there. He spent a few days with them. He got to know like some of their SME associations. He went to the entrepreneurial awards staged by the Sultanate. He talked to different entrepreneurs, that kind of thing. So that's a really comprehensive overview of the Omani ecosystem. I did the same thing last year for Bahrain. But if it's, I'd say, a startup pitching, like you're launching your own media house, something like that, it depends, right? It depends if I think this might be a 500-word story or a 2,000-word story. I can be honest, it's very rarely a 2,000-word story because that means that there's a huge backstory involved, and that's usually not the case for young enterprises.
Do you sometimes focus on sector by sector, or do you
Yeah, we do.
do it geographically? How do you decide what to cover so that you don't? I mean, one thing that I would come across as an issue is I would do a lot about Dubai, a lot about Egypt and Jordan, but then there are, there were gaps in the rest of the world and the rest of the MENA region.
Okay, so for example, in October we did an issue that was more about hospitality. Okay, so the way we covered hospitality was we did, for example, Reserve Out, right? So online booking. We did Chef Exchange, where you can, it's on demand for chefs. We did an actual F&B outlet by 3 young entrepreneurs, very junior. I think they were 21, 22, 23, and so on and so forth. So we tried to cover the F&B industry in terms of both like digital, non-digital, like brick and mortar, so on and so forth. So we created a section. Another time we did a money cover story, and in that we had an angel, a VC, somebody talking about M&A. So we covered all the different bases. But back to the startup question, which I'm sure is probably more relevant here. If you're a startup and you are pitching us, I mean, it does help for you to make your case in a short email and then just kind of provide some, even a pitch deck. Pitch decks often help with us, right? Because we look and see, okay, we've onboarded X amount of users, we've this and that. What we don't want to see is, I'm launching my business in 1 month and I know I'm going to be the next Facebook of X. Because who says who, and what if you don't launch in a month? And everybody says they're going to launch in a month. You know what I mean? So we prefer to cover enterprises that are already up and running and have demonstrated at least some traction.
And the role of the media is really important. So if you do end up making it into the pages of our magazine, then the right people are going to notice about the right audience. I think that's really key.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We try to make sure that our content hits the right set of eyes, right? We're not the type of company that buys clicks from random countries that really could care less what you're doing. You know, we really have maintained and developed our social media presence for that reason. So you will see us all online, my staff individually, and us as the actual media outlet all the time, and that's because we want to bring your startup to the right audience, right? For sure, it's great for advertising if we have all kinds of random clicks, but it's not great for our readership, and it's not great for us either. We don't want to be writing for a random audience that doesn't have any idea where Dubai is or what Bitcoin is, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. What about some of your favorite success stories?
Actually, in the new issue, you guys can pick up free copies, they're right here. So in the new issue, again, this goes back to the Oman story that we just covered. One of the entrepreneurs that AB had just spoken with in Oman, and she just won an award by the Sultanate. She's got a good story. She had said at the outset when she wanted to launch her enterprise, because she was leading a successful career, her father had stopped speaking to her, and her husband, and her husband was quite angry with her, kind of giving her the cold shoulder, so on and so forth. And now, you know, everything's great for her, and they're all proud of her because she just was honored by the Sultan. But I mean, she pretty much went through the like me against the world.
What was her business?
It was like, incense, Mali incense.
Okay.
Very small enterprise.
So holistic, natural, all many products.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So I thought that was like
woman
significant.
entrepreneur, I think that's great.
And I think it's-
about impressive female entrepreneurs here.
And Breen Musa for sure. How many of you guys know Savannah? Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, she's really active in the ecosystem too. So I don't think she's just a great entrepreneur just because her business is great. I actually think she's amazing in terms of ecosystem participation. There has never been a time that somebody has called on Ambreen to come and like speak where she doesn't take time out of her own business to would do so, right? So people don't realize how much planning and energy and actual time away from her work and her personal life it takes to go and show up at all these events.
Yeah, she started that business when she had a baby as well.
Yeah, like I can't imagine.
I mean, that sounds insane. I can't imagine how she got to sleep. But
I think
she's
Lana
really
Ataya as
dedicated.
well. Yeah. You guys know Lana Ataya? Yeah, so she just announced another huge round.
So she's Mom's World, which is buying its e-commerce site for mom and baby.
Yeah, I don't know, Mom, I know it's kids for sure. I think it might be both. Anyway, so Mona just announced another round, and the last time I moderated for her, so I was in Sarah C, she was in the middle of negotiating with her shareholders and all this, and like she still managed to get up on stage at the Women in Leadership Forum, sit through an hour of my questions, which were not easy and kind of like harassment type questions, like how'd you raise, how are you pitching, what's your pitch deck look like, that kind of thing. I mean, when you get to somebody like Mona's level, I mean, you cease to become kind of like almost relatable to the younger entrepreneurs because she's done so much that you're like, how did she get there? But at the same time, if you have the chance to meet somebody like her and you target your questions, I've seen her stand there and kind of grill people on their startup. This is actually to a young startup founder that I introduced her to at Women in Leadership. So she grilled her on her startup and said, okay, no, this is how your messaging is off. And she corrected it for her right there. So even if you get 5 minutes with an entrepreneur of that caliber, I do encourage you, like, I mean, don't give them your whole pitch deck because they have a life too, but do ask them, like, this is my area, this is what mistakes I feel like I've made, or this is the area I'm having trouble with, what do you suggest? They'll ask you 2 or 3 questions and they'll help you. And often they'll say, come back, we'll talk further.
I think that goes back to what you were saying before about it being a small community too, because mentorship is really important if you're lucky enough to have somebody who can give you the right advice, and everyone is so busy, the
Right.
community is so small, that yeah, it's a really important relationship to nurture, I think. Do you have a mentor? As your
I did actually, you know
That's
Octavia?
Yes, I do.
So Octavia is probably the closest thing to what I'd consider a mentor.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
she's a journalist, so that's kind of not in this realm.
Yeah, so, I would succeed.
Yeah.
But going back to what we were saying, the importance of social media. I was going to ask you earlier, you've mentioned it several times now, both in terms of Entrepreneur Magazine, but also for people who are starting with their own business. When is the right time to embrace social media as part of your passion in the beginning?
Okay, so really quickly, how many of you actually feel like you've mastered social media for your professional life? Okay, that's that. Okay, so
What is mastering?
I mean mastering, like you have, I have. I know Sarah through social media. We've actually never met. Yeah. So like, I mean, okay, how many of you use Twitter? How many of you have connected to somebody in business that you wanted to connect with through Twitter?
I've gotten 3 jobs off of Twitter.
Okay, yeah. I think I was actually recruited for Entrepreneur partially because of my Twitter profile. I spoke on a panel about professional use of Twitter and how it can take you places. So it's not just about Twitter. So how many of you think you have a really good digital footprint? Meaning if I Google you, I will find things that make me want to talk to you. Okay, that's good. Yeah. No, it's good, it's important. So, okay, one of the first things I do before I do a story is obviously I Google somebody, and then I go through all their social media profiles. So that sounds stalkerish, it is. It is.
We're all stalkers.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, there's a few reasons I do that. First of all, if you're pitching your enterprise to me, I want to know how much marketing you've actually done. Like, have you tried to promote your own enterprise, or are you just like taking it easy, hoping that one of the journals is going to pick up your story and send you clicks? Okay. It kind of bothers me when I get pitched so hard by a business, and yet they don't even bother to develop a digital profile on their own. And if anybody here says they don't have money, I can tell you right now that I launched Entrepreneur with $0. Okay, it was literally me and one other person who just actually left to go do his master's, and he and I ran all of our social media accounts for months. Then these guys came on board. Okay, but before that, it was just me. So if you look at our accounts now, they're seriously pro, they're completely active all the time, and they've got a huge amount of users, and that's where all of our traffic comes from. Okay.
So when did you launch?
So February 2014.
Just said right now, second.
Yeah.
Just so we have an idea, how many Twitter followers does the account have? I know
60
me personally,
something.
13,000.
10.
Yeah.
So the magazine has about 60,000 something. Can one of you guys check for me, please? On Twitter, 67. Okay, so 66 on Twitter, 67 on Facebook, LinkedIn, which is the hardest, hands down, to onboard. We have 3,000 something. Instagram 4,000 something. Again, hard to onboard. Remember, this is all with $0. This is all organic. Okay, and I personally have never advertised myself. Obviously, I don't take out ads on the internet to advertise my Twitter account, but I have 10,000 followers, and I can honestly say that some of the biggest and best things that have happened to me have happened because people follow me on social media. So like, I tell entrepreneurs this all the time. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing it, but doing it right. So you won't catch me tweeting a picture of the inside of my house, the same way I would invite you guys all to the inside of my house. You know what I mean? I'm sure you, vice versa, you don't want me in your house, and you also shouldn't show me that on Twitter. You know, so.
You have control. You have control over the message, and it's an even wider audience than you can imagine. So it is a really powerful tool.
So for the record, I know her work because of her Twitter account. So that's how I have always known of Sarah. And then we connected on
vice versa.
LinkedIn.
I mean, we've been following each other for years.
Yeah. But we've never actually met. So.
Yeah, I'm meeting right now. But going along with that, mobile penetration rates are so high here. Everyone's always on their phones. Everyone's got 1 or 2 phones per person. So again, social media is very important for that. But I want to hear your thoughts just in general about how mobile fits into an entrepreneur's plans.
Okay, so
Maybe it's e-commerce, for example.
right, as far as the studies go and everything that I read, most people are surfing the sites on mobile, obviously, right? So they always say your site should be mobile first. I think everybody here has kind of a basic knowledge of that, yeah? Yeah, okay, good.
I
So,
think it's an average of 3 devices per person. That's the latest statistic I read.
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest, I don't know, but like, so everything is supposed to be mobile first. Is that always the best? Maybe not. I mean, some businesses are not meant to be mobile first, right? There's a lot of businesses that, yeah, while you look at their website, you really can't do much and you end up going to the laptop to do it. So, yeah, it's great that your website might look slick on mobile, but sometimes the functionality is just not there, right? And I don't know, again, I have no experience coding, right? But like UX and UI, both of these things, when you set out to design your site and you're like, oh, I have to go mobile first, it has to look so slick and it has to be whatever. I mean, I would worry more about how much function your user's getting. Because if your site is designed to be mobile first, but the functions aren't all there, even if you choose the top 3 basic functions that people use, I don't know. Like, I've wandered away from a lot of sites and a lot of e-commerce purchases because of that. I'm like, damn it, okay, and I go to my laptop maybe. So.
I agree. I mean, even they say that booking online for a flight or a holiday, a lot of people are doing it on their phones, but I personally still.
Yeah, I still go to
do that.
laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but maybe it'll come soon. Down the line. I think we have a good 15 minutes. I'll ask you questions.
questions later. So
Your model revolves around Bitcoin though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that in itself is difficult, like,
Yes.
so you're in the 1%. Have you pitched?
No, I just started, so I think there's another reason I'm here.
Okay.
So, with e-commerce.
Okay, so, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's as hard as you guys think it is to get funded. There's tons of programs out there willing to give you money, especially if you're a social entrepreneur, by the way, they're giving money out hand over fist. You don't have to just look in MENA. Carpool Arabia got their 350,000 from French VC. Right, exactly, so because they had pitched and pitched and pitched in the region, and nobody in the region identified with the carpooling solution. We gave them an award for transportation solution, so we believe in carpooling as a solution for a larger problem in MENA, which is infrastructure and obviously traffic, right? And volume of people not being able to keep up with it. So we had enough confidence to give Carpool Arabia an award at some point, but they couldn't get money. And they had all the press. They had a lot of attention, they were really big in the ecosystem. They personally would write to me and invite me to random events all the time, and this is far before we covered them. So yes, they had a difficult time, but I think that actually stems from their model being hard for some people to process. So at one of our events, we had a gamer. She was a game dev girl, and she would go and pitch for funding, and people thought she was had a toy factory. Okay, like for real. So she was like, I just don't know what I'm doing. Like they actually have no idea what I'm doing, you know? And she was an Emirati girl, so there was a ton of programs available for her. We connected her with Khalifa Fund. I'm not sure what happened with that. Did it go well? Did it go anywhere? Tapered off. Yeah, so anyways, in terms of, I don't know if there's any nationals in the room, but you guys have a lot of funding. Is there? Yes, no?
You're any nationals?
Yeah, okay, you guys have tons of funding opportunities. Do you guys know about Chaaban Dubai and all of this? Okay, yes, they'll do the introductions for you, they'll do all kinds of things. For the expats in the room, I think that if your business model is something that people can relate to, and I'm not talking about, again, yes, they know what Bitcoin is, maybe. It's hard to explain, if they've heard digital currency, okay, good. But do they believe in its application? Probably not, because they can't even get a mental image of what a digital currency might be. It's not a tangible thing. If you have a tangible business model that seems like it can scale, I honestly do not believe it's hard to find money. You could go pitch at Wamina. They have tons of angels. There's Venture Souk, also angels. I think angels are, to be honest, great and a vehicle in MENA for you guys. I'm not sure people think of them first. They always think that they're going to get acquired first. I don't know why that is. How many people in the room think that it's easy to get acquired if you have a good startup model? Okay, I fully disagree with you. I think that's like built to exit is like one of the worst ideas to have.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it is a good idea to have an exit when you enter.
I mean,
when I enter this room, I know where to exit.
look, I don't think if you open a brick and mortar pizza place that, I'm giving you a brick and mortar example because I don't want to attack anybody's business models that exist.
Oh, okay.
So let's pretend we have a pizza startup. It's brick and mortar. And then we think that Domino's is going to come and acquire us. Because why wouldn't they? They want to come to me. Because they've got all the resources in the world and they don't need to acquire you.
No, but no, you solve a problem first, but you build it with the perspective that you're going to have an exit. Otherwise, why build it?
I don't know.
Passion.
Yeah, like I don't think that.
Passion?
Loving your work,
Do you want-
loving what you do.
You need, I would
Okay.
say, you need to build it as a profitable business.
Right,
that
that's it.
continues to make profit.
Of course.
Somebody might not want to acquire you, but you're still making profit.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
every
It's your
entrepreneur
decision
wants
to
start
close a
company.
profitable business.
Yeah, this is how you look at it.
Why would
From
you sell a profitable
financial
business?
perspective?
I understand. I think everyone starts a company hoping that there would be some
Something to
success. And that success usually comes from a big exit strategy where someone acquires you for millions and millions. But if you have that mindset from the very beginning, it could be misread, as in that you don't have the passion to see it all the way through, or that it's not really your business, but you're just hoping to make a quick buck. I think it's just the perception that.
And I've seen investors walk away from investments because of that. So if you go in and tell a lot of investors, I know I'm going to get acquired by XYZ company, they're going to be like, I know I'm not investing. Because they want to make sure that you're in there for 10 years or 15 years or 20. Maybe in the back of their heads, they have an exit strategy plan for you as well. Maybe, and they want you to get acquired as much as you do. I promise. You know, they want that huge payout too, especially because their money is sunk into the company. But,
Imagine you going into a job and telling your employer
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Maybe a what?
Investment managers should not go to entrepreneurship.
I think they probably make the best entrepreneurs because you guys know the numbers.
You have one here.
Numbers, yeah, but you know what? Numbers are honestly one of the biggest, yeah. But numbers are one of the biggest deficiencies in entrepreneurs. Like, so financial literacy, that's our most popular panel at every event we stage. So,
Yeah. But exit, you can't help it in an investment manager. You always look at an exit.
yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
maybe a deficiency.
I can see the natural
but,
inclination to that, but
yeah.
I honestly, I strongly suggest for anybody in the room who's gonna be pitching for money, please don't tell your investors that you want to exit. Because they will tell you, okay, then what? Yeah, there's the
Yeah,
door.
sure.
Yeah.
It's not a slide in the pitch, but you want to keep it in your mind. Anyway.
Alright, I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you wanted to mention before we go to the Q&A.
I mean, I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are all here. I hope I can answer some questions. And I hope that whatever conversation we just had gave you some sort of insight into what you're here to hear.
Questions? Yes. Hi.
So my question is something that's kind of going to go retrospective to 1993 and 1994. So think of somebody walking into a room full of investors saying, I've got a new company called Hotmail, and I have 1,000 people signed up to my email, and my email service, and it's free for everybody, and I think the whole world is going to be part of this and adopt this. Now, investors don't even know how to pronounce the @ sign because they've never seen it before.
Right.
It's 1993, right? So what would be your advice for somebody like that? Basically, for my case, is of course Bitcoin. So
I think
it's
you can look at Samir Toucan actually for a great example of this, because like
Yeah.
when he started out, people thought this was hilarious. Okay,
Yeah.
people thought like this whole thing being an entrepreneur was hilarious.
Does everybody here know who Samir Toucan is?
Yes, no, okay. He's basically one of the historic. He's a young guy. He's not historic, but his business success is historic. He doesn't speak very often at events. I think due to lack of time. He exited. You guys, again, this is not. I don't think I've never asked him actually, but I don't think this is what he set out to do when he started. I mean, you know who he is, so I shouldn't be talking to you. If you guys Google him, I'm going to give you just the short format. Like nobody thought whatever Samir did and went through Maktub, so on and so forth, that this was ever going to amount to anything.
Email service?
Yeah. And nobody thought it was going to amount to anything, and then he exited in, like, again, one of our historic exits, making the dream a reality, and in the process, showing everyone that yes, entrepreneurship can be done in America, right? And you can get outside interest.
So he built the company from scratch, and it took 10 years, and in 2009, yeah, he bought Maktub for $175 million. So it was one of the biggest success stories we know.
So you can actually, he did a recent piece, it's pretty interesting. He did it for like a Jordanian blog, I think. If you Google Samir Toucan, T-O, can somebody tweet out his name or tag him on Twitter? If you guys follow Entrepreneur on Twitter, he's going to tweet out a link to his article. But anyways, he did a cool article in a Jordanian blog or something like that, and it was about if his exit is still relevant, considering Yahoo closed their offices here. Did you read that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He's
so
still very active. I mean, Chaaban Internet Group is now in charge
Yeah.
of Souq.com, which is the biggest and oldest e-commerce
1
site.
billion returns.
So, yeah,
They just
the
got
biggest,
billionaires in funding from international investors.
right, and so that's supposedly the biggest cash injection ever. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I don't know of a bigger one.
No, there hasn't been another one reported
Exactly.
that big. So undisclosed. we
Right.
don't know, but-
So everyone calls Souq the first unicorn. Ronaldo hates that name, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that it very well might be our first unicorn. Anyway, so,
He didn't let me put that in my story.
yeah. And when I moderate for him, he doesn't let me use it. And any questions
But I
about it,
think
I
that's
have
a
to.
good thing.
No, I think it is a good thing too. It's so much speculation. What's a unicorn? How are you evaluating? Is it art or science? Are you guessing? Who knows? Like, we haven't seen the books, you know? Anyway, sorry, back to your question. So like, yeah, your business model, look, I don't know, the most important thing for you, I think, is to connect with investors that are tech savvy. Otherwise, you're like not gonna have any luck. Because if you go to somebody who's got, because there's a lot of personal wealth here, and that personal wealth is often injected into enterprises. These people want to invest, but they won't invest in something that they don't at all understand. Okay, like I follow Bitcoin.
risk as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, risk averse, definitely, right? So there's a big conversation here about how VC is not even VC because it's so risk averse. For somebody like you, for Bitcoin, If you have to sit there and explain what a Bitcoin is, that's not gonna be your investment.
That's what
Right.
I noticed so far.
What is your business model?
It's payment processing and
Okay.
Bitcoin ATM. So we've been operational for 2 years now, and we're active in 138 countries.
Okay.
So
What's it called?
Umbrella.
Okay.
So we're the first Bitcoin company in the Middle East.
Okay, you
so
can send me your pitch deck. I have an investor who likes tech stuff. Maybe I can forward that. That's not an open invitation. Okay. So, but no, specifically for your model, it has to be somebody extremely tech savvy. Otherwise, if you're sitting there telling them what a
Yeah, we're the
Bitcoin is,
first
it's
actually.
like, forget
Nobody's
it.
doing this.
Yeah, but even just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It is really amazing.
Yeah, like forget everything else he's doing, just the word Bitcoin, like start from there and you've knocked out at least 80% of the investors here. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Before we go on then, any general advice for entrepreneurs? I meant to ask you that earlier.
General advice for
So,
entrepreneurs.
Be good at numbers.
Yeah.
Strong public speaking skills.
Definitely, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
public
pitch.
speaking is so important. If you cannot own the room, like I've seen so many investors back out, like you have to be able to own it. I was at a Wamina pitch night, there was one guy, his model, I personally wouldn't have given him $10, he's a great speaker. So he had me like fully wanting to be able to give this guy money, you know what I mean? Like I was sitting there listening and watching his pitch deck and I'm like, this isn't a good model. But he was so great at owning the room. And like, I can't tell you how important that is for those who aren't entrepreneurs, because it seems like there's a lot of people in the room who aren't. I think mastering public speaking and delivery is probably the most important thing. So,
It's a skill you can practice.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're not born with it.
I mean, we weren't born with it.
No, oh my
You know,
gosh.
we had to refine delivery, we
I
had to
used to
work
be
on it.
terrified of 2 years ago and not visiting here
Right.
right now. So it's just something that you practice and you get more comfortable and you learn.
And that's one of the first things I actually tell my staff, right, Pam? Yeah. So, when I see people with a lot of potential, the first thing I tell them is that they really have to be able to own their delivery and be able to basically give an elevator pitch of like how great they are without sounding cocky, right? So you need to be able to demonstrate your value without, I mean, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah.
And just to know every single in and out of your business, so the numbers
Yeah.
and your audience and the region, everything, every little detail.
So about this, I actually wrote a couple different editor's notes, like my letter that's in front of the magazine, about how many entrepreneurs like really surprise me because they spent all this money, developed this business, they're great at numbers, they can sell like ice to an Eskimo, but yet they actually don't even know what their staff are doing on a day-to-day basis. They don't know what their social media platforms look like. They don't know how they're onboarding users because they're too busy being the entrepreneur. Okay, so if you don't know your business, the investor is not going to know your business. And like you better be able to answer these nitty-gritty questions because they will surprise you. Like me as media, I constantly kind of ask questions like that. And I'm like, I look at people thinking that you don't actually even know how your business is running on a micro level. And yeah, like maybe at some point you have to let go of these small things. But Ronnie actually made a great point. So Ronaldo Mshawad, I was moderating for him at Endeavor in Jordan. And he said, you know, there's two kinds of guys. One of them is like the engineer, and he said, you know, we're the guys wearing a sweaty t-shirt. He goes, and the other ones are the sales guys, and they're in a great suit. And he was like, and I know what they're both doing. He's like, I don't know exactly what they're both doing, but I know how they both work, and I know how everything works together. So at some point when you get to be as big as him, of course you're not going to be able to know on a minute level what everyone's doing, but you should know how it works regardless.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
If you have questions, go ahead. Sure.
So I have a question for the lazy entrepreneur out there. You spoke about Emiratis having funding and also about other nationalities having funding. On your magazine, do you have a list of who's funding? And also, is there even a better list of what they have funded?
Okay, so Beckel Capital came out with a periodic table. It's like, you know, it looks like a chemistry periodic table, and it has all the different investors listed on it, from angels to VCs, whatever. Yeah, it segments them all for you. So we can email that too, because I still have that on my computer. That's one. We don't have a list per se, but we do have a recurring column, which is like, what are you looking for in an investment pitch, right? So we go to investors from across the region. Most recently, we had Vodafone Ventures. Who else? Well, we've had Flat Six, of course. So So we've had incubators, accelerators, angels, VCs, PEs, so we've had them all answer this. That material's all on our website, right? And I don't know, but they can
I
probably.
mean, to be fair though, I'm just going to be a little bit rude here, but that's just laziness. You can
Yeah,
look it
yeah.
up. You can look it up. It's really, really very easy to just Google it and
True.
find it. So
And there are so few here that I think it's not like if you went to
Yes.
the
Yes.
store market,
Yes.
there are so many and they
I'll be
have
honest,
different stages.
And there's another way, you can just look through all the startup events speaking agendas.
yeah.
We have, I mean, there's, like I said, so few public ones. The angels aren't gonna be speaking, for sure. But they, well, Sonia, I guess, does, Nina does.
Another easy way to do this, to reverse engineer it, is if you've heard of a story of a startup getting funded, provided that, and it's typically pretty accurate, but you can go over to AngelList, which is done out of Silicon Valley, etc. And you'll see the rounds and who invested in what round of that particular company. Typically for the larger investments, above 5, 10, but you'll see kind of who's active in the space, so you can kind of reverse
The
engineer.
other thing is, about what he just said about when you check out which investor invested in X startup, that doesn't mean you're gonna get to them, and that doesn't mean they care about your business model. So you need to make sure that like when you're pitching an investor, this is like one of their advice that comes from them. Make sure that that's their area, right? So for him, for example, he's not gonna be approaching brick and mortar F&B people, but like I have an investor that I think actually would understand his model, and that's why I said send me to debt.
It's funny you say that, and I'm sure he's gonna have a story for you afterward about F&B. If I'm not mistaken. The first investors in his business were a bricks and mortar F&B company. So that's one. But I would say that just in terms of why I asked that question, because I was speaking to Emiratis, and I didn't have an answer for them, and they were saying
Okay,
they
there's
knew about Khalifa Fund.
Okay, so yeah, there's, okay, they can just actually go to Tijara Dubai, and Tijara Dubai can, if they're in Dubai, are they in Dubai?
They're
Yeah, so if they go to Tijara Dubai and they've got even a somewhat viable idea, like ideation stage, Tijara Dubai will help them, coach them, put them through all kinds of training programs, all kinds of stuff for free, and then they will help them when they get to a certain level, right, when their business model is ready, they will help them find investment, whether it's a bank loan, whether it's whatever, they do the footwork for them. And there's more too, but there's also the new,
Khalifa Fund is the main one I know.
no, Khalifa Fund is Abu Dhabi. There's another one in Dubai. Who just spoke of our things? There's one on Tijara. Oh, Hamdan Incubator. No, HI2 though will have a list. Sorry, who am I speaking to? Okay, so HI2 will have a list of places, and just by being part of something like that, it does help in terms of bank approaches and that sort of thing for traditional funding routes. It's the same thing with Tijara Dubai. It's the same thing with Khalifa Fund. If Tijara Dubai doesn't actually give you the money, they will just facilitate these proper introductions sort of thing, and generally it works, right? So some of the entrepreneurs that go to Tijara Dubai have the money, but they don't have the experience. These people need the money or the experience or both.
just a general idea. They're engineers, so they don't know where to start. Other than
I mean, if they have ideation stage, send them to Tijara Dubai, because they'll help them refine it and create the actual business model first, right? And they'll put them through all of this. It's super useful. Yeah.
What will the names are? Tokyo Capital, what will you think?
Okay, yeah, so if whoever wants that chart of the investors from Beko, can anybody have a piece of paper? Okay. So can everybody just write down their email and we'll email it to you? We have it in high res.
What is this one?
Beko, so yeah, they're investors here too, BECO space capital. More questions?
I have a part two. Sorry. Is there any history of entrepreneurship in terms of, because we live in Dubai, we live in the UAE, and it's made up of the locals and expats? Is there an example that you see where expats and locals have collaborated,
Well, there's a
even
lot
on the
of,
business level? You know,
there's
as
a lot of
partnership?
local investors, right? So there's a lot of Emirati angels, but they're just not advertising it. But there are a few in particular that you'll see.
To be specific, let's say university leaving age, a local and his best friend who isn't.
You know, to be
No,
honest, we've
it's-
covered a
that's
few,
important.
the what?
We
Yeah.
just have that in front of the men.
Yeah, so exactly, so there's, what was his name? Haris?
Harris and,
Hadi. Yeah, so they have a medical startup, they were Carnegie Mellon students, and this was supposed to be their class project, and so all the, I guess their co-students were like, wow, I would sign up for this startup, and so they actually developed it, and now it's live. They were just in our content edition. There's not just that, if you look, we've covered Tijara Dubai startups, like graduates of Tijara Dubai, and some of them have, obviously, non-Emirati partners. Like, there isn't this segmentation in entrepreneurship, because I don't think that's, that's like saying, would a Lebanese and a Palestinian get together? Yeah, like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know why they would.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, if you need a CFO, you need a CFO. If you need somebody who can code in Python, you gotta get
The
somebody who
difference
can code in
is that
Python.
there are some advantages if you're in Emirati to get access to funding that you need maybe to be able to.
Yeah, but I don't even
That's the only
think
way
that
to
that's, yeah, I don't think that yeah. I think that answered it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my question is about managing a startup in a fairly early stage, and how do you balance getting traction with making money? Because I'm managing a startup out of Iran, and of course, at the very start, our goal is to just get as many users as possible. But sometimes that means giving away free content, free service, free value-added features to clients who are going to bring us that traction. At what point do we stop doing that and say, you know what, we need to also make some money and not just care about how many users?
How long have you been operational?
8 months.
What's your business model? In like 11
It's an
seconds.
online ticketing
Okay,
platform,
online
just to
ticketing,
summarize,
fine.
yeah.
Okay, and you've done all the link building and the whatever and the partnerships and the whatever?
It's in progress. It's in
Okay.
progress.
So, but would you say, like, how many users have you onboarded?
We have 10,000 users and 60,000 dirhams in terms of dirhams transaction value so far.
Okay, and have you talked to any investors?
Not yet, not officially. We've done a few informal pitches, which have been very well received. But I'm not too keen actually right
But
now.
have they said anything to you about your traction?
No.
Okay, so like, I don't know, for me, the numbers you're demonstrating are good.
Yeah, I would just say like you shouldn't burn out. Like, fine, you have so many number of users, but if you can't pay your staff, like in 2
Right.
months down the
So
line.
burn rate is like a huge thing.
Yeah, well that's the thing, right? So we're bootstrapping completely.
Right.
Founders are not being paid salaries right now.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry.
But
And
if
we're-
it goes on, like, again, that depends on your business plan per se, like, fine, if you can keep on with this model for like 3 more months, fine, build as many users, but yes, there has to be a plan where you say, okay, fine.
Do you have
Starting this
existing
month.
competition in that market that's operational?
We do, but they're in a very niche market. We cover the market much more broadly than they do. So they focus on startups, but we do pretty much the entire universe of event space in Iran.
Oh, okay, fine. And you've done all the like Google ads or whatever to get clicks and all this?
We haven't invested in any. We've actually used a lot of social media, so we've been very good at getting traction on the legal ones in Iran, which is
Right,
mainly
organically.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've tried to do guerrilla marketing, free marketing, whatever is possible. And I laughed at your comment about the team being always on, because that's the same thing with us.
Yeah.
Just, of course we want to grow fast, so that's the question, right? So at what point do we stop giving away free service?
At some point, you gotta bite the bullet and just suck it up and keep paying them until you have the numbers, right? And then, and the other thing you say, you're kind of talking to investors, I mean, you have to establish a relationship with investors far before you actually need the investment anyway, so it's good that you're doing this. So
Exactly.
even if you're not gonna actually be pitching hard for another 2 years, you need that relationship there, because when you go to knock, they better know you already. Okay? But in terms of your users, I mean, I think you're doing great for 8 months.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It sounds
No,
like
it's
your numbers
good,
are very
yeah.
good.
And
But
everyone's,
then again, Iran is a very large country, 78 million population,
but
so.
everyone's interested in Iran right now,
Right,
so
slightly
it's a good
different,
time to
yeah.
start talking to people.
I mean, it's not just that, like word of mouth, like
Yeah.
the more users you on, I mean, it's obviously, there is an app.
The app is gonna come out at April, end of April.
Okay, so once you, and it's gonna be Android, iOS?
Both.
Okay, perfect, so yeah, once you have your app up, that's already going to, right, generate an influx of users, So I would say probably 2 months after the app was on. That's when I would start to charge.
Start talking with people now,
Yeah.
just go to Astro Labs and all these events where they have invested. Start talking with them like other entrepreneurs have gone through the same process, they'll be able to give you a better, understand stuff, let's say.
I think we have time for just one more.
Abdullah, it can't be your question unless it's for Sarah, because I know you. Is your question for Sarah? No? Okay, then no.
Sorry.
I want to understand, let's say, if businesses are at in the early stage, let's say the ideation phase, and they're looking for angels precisely, how entrepreneurs can help and
I wouldn't help anybody in ideation phase yet.
right. So
That's like the straight answer, because like I don't.
All over the world, let's say.
Yeah, if right now I have lots of ideas for a business, I'm sure AB, Simulated County all do, yeah, there's no way, so like, that embarking on boundary, next.
so we made more strips with things in under development and it's not yet live. Because it's not live. So are there investors invest at this stage? And
What?
how do we pitch them?
Yeah, I don't know, you know what, to be honest, I don't know a single investor, yeah, I don't know a single investor who invests in products that don't exist yet. That said, that doesn't mean they don't exist, it's just those are not the investors that we know. Would I give you money? No.
Investors invest when you have savings.
Right. And investors invest, like, you know what, yeah, you have to demonstrate traction.
Works, and then they'll put their money. Otherwise, there's.
And why would they invest at development stage? Like, why would they believe that your stuff is gonna work the way you say it
We
will?
have, like consider, we have back with the solid team, right? We have to work it really.
But you're up against the same team,
Right.
Yeah.
but 5 years down the line of people who have
Right.
been and improve their business work.
There's
So if I'm
way
an
more
investor,
startups than investors.
You need
Right.
to have the business ready.
Like, we're not trying to discourage you, I'm just telling you that there's no way that I would, even me in my capacity as somebody who introduces startups to investors, I would not introduce you. Because I would say, come back when you've A, launched a product, and B, onboarded some users, or demonstrated some actual interest in this product, right? Because just because you don't have 5,000 users doesn't mean there's an interest in the product, it means you might need that marketing money, right? Or it means that, again, you just need to do something as simple as get a social media manager. So, it's not always the case, but 90% of the time, if you came, I wouldn't even cover you. So like, I wouldn't cover you in an article, so, you know what I mean? It's really, I don't know,
Yeah, but
unlikely.
it's meant to be encouraging. I mean, if you believe in it this much that you think it values
And
the
we have-
investor listening, then do it. And then go to them when you've proven that you can do it.
But realistically speaking, you also don't want to tell them that we have the best team and we're gonna do this, because they're gonna be like, I've heard this, like 1,000 times. Prove it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
One more question and then we have to go. Yes.
I'm a student, and we both have this startup. It's a very young startup, and it's basically a platform which connects students and companies both together. So basically, it's a website. It should be up in 3 days.
Stop. What does it connect them to do?
Sorry.
What does it connect them to do?
Yeah. So companies often look forward all the designers and all the
Okay,
data.
stop. Have you Googled this?
Sorry.
Have you Googled your idea?
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't find any startups that do what you do?
What basically what we're trying to say is that there's a lot of talent in students basically, and companies want cheap labor.
Okay,
And-
hold on. Cindy, what's the startup called? Dubai Minds. What, and then there's Interns ME for internships. Okay, and then there's another one. And of course, Netbish for freelancers. Back to the drawing board.
All right. So suppose you take interns.me, whatever.
Interns ME, they're like
Yeah.
huge in the market.
Yeah,
and
correct.
they have like established themselves and worked really hard at
Okay.
making sure that big companies trust them,
Right.
right? And then there's, Cindy, what is, yeah, Dubai Minds is the high school students,
Yeah,
and they match, say it
for
louder.
interns. They match students looking for internships and corporates who are willing to take students as interns.
So that's on our website, go to entrepreneur.com and search
Okay,
Dubai Minds.
this is more for SMEs and other startups and other entrepreneurs who are looking for freelancers. Something.
Guys, I'm sorry, I can tell you right now that everybody's doing it already, and they're doing it better than
What is
you. Go to
unique about
Netbish.
you? What is unique?
We connect people who would do jobs for a less amount
What
and
is
with the
unique
same quality.
About you versus the three others that they mentioned.
That's basically more about internship and permanent job.
Okay, Netbish.
Ambitious.
And then forget the local one, Upwork. Elance.
You know, I have
So
to
is
say,
this-
what's
Can I
amazing is that your
I'll add a
students.
point, and now it's actually international. I mean, I don't mean to add to the pressure, but
Yeah.
so you can from Dubai hire anybody in all of Asia, so India, Pakistan, China, and then I hire people in Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon on all the Western, so freelancer.com,
Let me just
Odesk,
interrupt real quick.
freelance, so
Upwork.
Just,
I think it's amazing that you're students and you're trying to do this. I think that you had a good idea, you just need to do a little bit more research. So don't completely throw it out the window. But
No,
it's,
I think that,
there
yes.
you do need to do more work to get to where you want to be. Maybe find a niche, something that makes you really, really unique. We need to go back and do a little bit more homework. But I think it's amazing that your students here are doing this.
I want to add that you don't always have to find a niche. You could find something that's been done somewhere else and isn't done here yet.
Yeah.
But when you have an idea, you need to Google it. The first thing
Find
you
a
do
way to
is
be
Google it.
different.
So if you would have Googled Dubai students, intern, volunteer, startup, I promise you would have hit an article. Right? It's really easy.
Yeah.
And sorry, just about, you were saying you used the international site for freelancers?
yes.
Guys, please use Nebish, okay? Lulu is an entrepreneur from Dubai. She's originally Lebanese. She's amazing. She's on the startup circuit. She volunteers her time a lot. She has mentorship calls. Please use the local version of whatever you can use. If you're an Uber user, use Kitty, okay? It's really easy. And honestly, next time it's gonna be your startup that nobody's using. So like, keep that in mind. Go ahead.
You mentioned the
Karma.
importance of social media for startups, like to have your own page. My question is it important to have pages on all the social media, like Twitter, LinkedIn, or is Facebook enough?
Honestly, I think it depends on your business.
Right.
So if you're fashion e-commerce, Instagram will be more important to you.
Right, like I think,
It's more business to business, not business to customer.
LinkedIn.
yeah, okay,
Better
so
than Facebook.
really quickly, what kind of business is it?
Offline entertainment.
Offline
for
entertainment, yeah.
schools.
I'm not gonna be able to do this, give you a proper assessment, but what I generally suggest is that you don't stretch yourself thin, right? So I don't have a Facebook account, but I have a Twitter. I have Pinterest as a placeholder, meaning I don't use it.
So it's a medium that you
Um,
relate to.
Right, so like, you need to first of all find out, A, is your customer on there? So LinkedIn is definitely your customer. And as much as like, it's hard to onboard users, it's actually like one of the best for us, because we can see full on activity and analytics and so on and so forth, right? So you're able to refine your message, so on and so forth. If you were asking if you should be on Facebook and Instagram and whatever,
Which one is more?
it just depends on your industry, but like, look, when you want to sit there and divide up your social media resources and say, I have X amount of time for my social media community manager, and there's like 50 platforms, you really should probably pick the top 2, and then as your team gets bigger, you can book your placeholder names. Just book the names if you want, and lock the accounts, right? And then later, if you decide to, yeah. But definitely don't have like a Facebook account and then have a dormant Facebook account. So like, that's almost worse than anything, right? So you don't wanna book that, yeah.
That's really good advice. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry, your hand has been up for a while. Go ahead. I forgot.
Okay, now
Last
it's just like, it's a general question, and it's the reason we're talking a lot about social media in general, so social media accounts and all the things. And my question is like, because now when you tweet, you post a photo on Instagram, it's not your it's not on your platform and you can't control anything. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they can change the rules and you lose maybe all your followers or they're nothing worth anymore. So
You mean
how
you're
do you
giving up
think
the
about that?
content into public realm?
Yes. And
Yeah,
then-
okay, so, yeah, I mean, look, you're using at the end of the day someone else's platform, right? So what they usually say is, like, let's say for example you have an e-commerce business and you're putting all this content on Instagram. Yes, but that click-through on your main web address goes back to your site, so it's creating a loop for your users. So yeah, okay, do you care about the intellectual property of, a picture that you put on Instagram? Is it worth it to you? Brand it if that's the case. That isn't the best solution, but who cares? Anything put into the public realm is public. So like our articles on entrepreneur.com have really stringent legal protection, and yet we find them on Yahoo because Yahoo finds a way around it by sticking the entrepreneur logo at the bottom, which we did not give them, right? So like, you're in a lose-lose situation here. If you have IP questions, so you can ask Anwar right there. He's an IP lawyer and he talks about this kind of thing all the time. So feel free to jump on him. But in terms of social and giving up content,
you're using a platform, but it's still your message and your brand. So that's how you think about it. In another way, you're using them to promote yourself.
Yes.
So it goes both ways. When I write an article for the New York Times owns it.
it ceases to become my property because it's in the public domain. So I'm voluntarily putting this
But
up there.
without it, your name
Right.
would be.
So it's a catch-22, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to promote your business without playing nice with social media. Like, it's very,
Can I just
Go ahead.
comment on this
Yeah,
as
go
well?
ahead.
So imagine it's like you're selling a drink and there's a music festival with 100,000 people. It's like, yes, you can promote your drink in your neighborhood, but that's where people are. And the music festival has own rules about what kind of drinks they allow there. You still have to play by the rules. But this is where people are, so you can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Everybody is using these platforms, and that's why you should play by their rules.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's that. It's
Yeah.
the highest priority is like the traffic that you can give you.
really
Yeah.
quickly, the SEO argument for that, like, I know a lot of SEO people who will say that's a bad idea. Don't put your content, because you're sending your users to Instagram, to Twitter, to whatever. No, at the end of the day, you're creating an online community that's gonna continue to visit, in my opinion, circular. Because our people who visit us, yeah. I think, exactly, I think it's, again, a catch-22, like damned if you do and damned if you don't, but you're really damned if you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, everyone, thank you so much, and I have to say that you're so inspirational. And it's amazing how, and she was sick today, and she still made it, and
I'm
shared
gonna
her
cough on you
experience.
guys.
So